Hey everyone, George Christie here with Wine Industry Network. Welcome to another session for the Wine Industry Sales Symposium. Now this session is titled Staying Ahead of the Curve, a peek into wine tech of the future. And we're going to take a look at a couple platforms that are coming online that are really making a difference in how we engage and interact with our consumers. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors, Quinny and Winerytale. Thank you so much for being a session sponsor. And of course, I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Red Chirp, for all their support as well. Again, before we begin, take advantage of the chat feature. Our presenters are in the room. They're there to take your questions as they come in. So please take advantage of that. And I think that about covers it. So I'm going to hand it off to Stacy Briscoe. Stacy is going to moderate this session and lead today's conversation. All right, Stacy, take it away.
This session is sponsored by Winerytale, a groundbreaking concept turning any wine label into an augmented reality experience.
You need more people to taste your wines, join your club, and stay in it. Red Chirp's here to help. Get more and better leads from your website. Requests go right to your phone, so no one has to log in and staff it. And after they leave, you can still continue the conversation and make more sales. Club members should feel like friends, and friends text each other. Texting with Red Chirp is so easy. You'll never have to buy work phones or share your personal number. Plus, you'll reach people 10 times faster and get more responses, too. With all these new sales, you'll need a better way to collect payments. Do it by text with Red Chirp. It's more secure, more convenient, and you'll get paid 6 times faster. Text messaging will get you more leads, close more sales, and build stronger relationships. You make it possible. Red Chirp makes it easy.
Thank you, George. My name is Stacy Briscoe. I'm a wine journalist and editor, and today I'm introducing the Wine Industry Sales Symposium Staying Ahead of the Curve segment. And we'll be speaking to 2 industry innovators who will talk about some of the latest accomplishments in technology geared towards the wine industry, which has become increasingly important as wine sales, particularly in the direct-to-consumer channel, have moved towards remote digital marketing outreach within the last year. So first, we're going to be speaking with Steve Nabel. He's the president of Redtie, and he's going to give us an overview on the benefits of texting campaigns. It's a platform that he says is a more advanced and modern solution over traditional email campaigns, and allows wine businesses to take a more dynamic and personal approach to how they communicate with their customers, club members, and potential new customers. And just as a reminder, Steve and Paul, who will be presenting after, they're both live today. So if you have any questions for them, please feel free to chat in the chat box. And you can use the @ symbol and their handle, and it will send them a direct message, and they can address any questions you have during the presentation. All right, Steve, here you go.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to open my presentation. I'm going to be talking about the compelling benefits of texting and things that you wish you knew 3 years ago. I'm Steve Knabel. I'm the president of Redtie, and Redtie is a business texting solution. Things I'm going to cover today are about the texting evolution, how it's changed consumer interactions, the advantages of texting, Redtie features and uses, and is it a fit for your business? Did you know that texting is the most common cell phone activity? It sure is. Here's a little bit of history on texting. It started about 29 years ago with the pager. For those of you that remember the pager, it was approved by the FCC in 1958 to send micro messages back and forth. And the first text was actually sent in December 1992 with a message of Merry Christmas. And the first tone with the text was sent on a Nokia device in 1993. Texting also came with its own language. It really changes the way that we interact. It reduces the number of characters that we send in a message, especially with SMS. I'm sure that we all use it. Things, abbreviations like LOL and CYA. I still haven't figured all of them out myself. They also came with emojis. So now rather than just send a response with a message, you can tell emotion or even answer a question in a text message using characters called emoji. And they keep expanding as well. And then there's the whole tone. So everybody does it. When you hear a tone on your phone, you typically turn it over and look at it. I've done it. I've been in the grocery store shopping. There's a tone that matches mine. I reach in my pocket and open it up, and sometimes it's a text message for me, and sometimes it's for somebody on the next dial. But we're all interactive with it. I kind of wanted to bust the age myth a little bit. Most people do text. 97% of Americans text weekly, and over 6 billion texts are sent almost every day. I wanted to introduce you to my mother-in-law. Her name is Dorothy. Dorothy is 95 years old. She's very active. She still drives her car. She shops for groceries. She mows her lawn. And 4 years ago, my wife said, hey, it'd be a good idea to get my mother a smartphone. She had a traditional flip phone. I was a little apprehensive by it, but we got Dorothy a smartphone. And months later, she started texting. Now, about twice, 2-3 times a week, we get a text from Dorothy with a picture of flowers that she grows in her garden. She loves gardening. So kind of the age myth to me is kind of busted. A lot of people use it, and it's just a matter of getting used to it. I want to just touch on what the differences between SMS and MMS are. So SMS stands for Short Message Service, and it limits the number of characters that you can send phone to phone, typically 160. And MMS is what we're typically used to, and that's where you send a text message with more characters and then attachments as well with photos, videos, or other types of attachments that you would send. I'm going to talk about the different flavors of texting. So one is a business texting service. Redtie is a business texting service. Typically, and there are others, and typically in a business texting service, you get a dedicated phone number. You get to send individual text to large groups. They typically have templates. You can do auto responses. Some of them have the capability to measure message effectiveness, as well as access by multiple users. And then typically there's no app on the receiver side to receive a message. Then there are the free texting apps, Google, WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook. There's many of those. But some of the receiver apps, some of the free texting apps need a receiver app. So I use WhatsApp. We have, some of our extended families overseas, so it's expensive to have them receive a traditional text message. So we use WhatsApp, but they need WhatsApp on their phone to use it. So that's one of the benefits of it and one of the drawbacks as well. Your phone is a good way to send text messages. It's really, it's good traditionally for friends and family. It's okay for business, but one of the business drawbacks is if you were to send a text message with 10 recipients and one person received that text message, that they would know who the other 9 people are, where a business texting service sends an individual message to each one of those 10 people. And then, of course, there's no receiver app that you need. You just get a text like you normally would. Why texting just works? It works because of the high open rate. So texting has an open rate on average of 98%, and they're typically read within 3 minutes. And I talked about that chime earlier. Typically when the phone chimes or buzzes, people turn it over. And because of the different types of capabilities that text messaging has, it's definitely replacing email as the way to connect with not only friends and families, but businesses and customers. These are the types of things that you get with a tool like Redtie. You can reach your customers quicker. It improves responsiveness rates. You can measure message effectiveness. You can create that digital interaction with customers. And you can also connect with retail customers outside of your normal business. And all this really helps the bottom line. I'm going to talk a little bit about the features, the business features of using Redtie, and then the consumer features as well. So with Redtie, the experience is there's no app to install. If you decide to sign up for Redtie, you would go to www.getredtie.com. You would sign up for it, and you could access Redtie from either a computer, a tablet, or a phone. So it is a software as a service. You get a dedicated phone number with it, area code, and then you can look through the host of phone numbers and select one that you like. It has the capability to tag all your contacts, and I'll be talking about tagging in a moment. You can send personalized messages back and forth. So if you were to send one text message to 500 people, it would grab the first name of that person and it would address that person in that text message, each one of them individually 500 times. Our platform has read receipts. You know when you get information on when you sent it and when they actually read the message itself. Our attachments are secure. We have multi-user access. So when somebody signs up for Redtie, they're the administrator and they can invite other people to use the platform to send messages. And because they have a different credential and login, you can see their activity on the platform. We have the capability to generate QR codes with responses, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. You can send and receive voice messages, and many tools don't have this capability. So when people see a phone number, they assume that you can not only text that number, but call that number. With ours, you can call and leave a message, and we can call and leave a message back, but you can't use the tool to talk on it like a phone. You can also have text-to-voice auto replies. So if somebody sends a text message, you have the option to create a voicemail auto reply back to that consumer. The customer experience, again, there's no app to install. They get text like they normally do on their phone today from a friend or family member. They can receive text the same way they do. Attachments don't take up phone space or memory space. They can stop at any time just by saying stop, responding with stop. Incoming messages are tagged, and I'll talk a little bit more in detail about that. They can respond with attachments, and they can respond with confirmation to special events. So I talked about attachments are stored in the cloud, and we do this for a very specific reason. It protects PII, personally identifiable information. Many of the things that you'll be sending back and forth, like event invitations, videos, those types of things don't typically have PII information in them. But if you were to send invoices or billing information back and forth, whether that was to a client or another vendor, that typically has PII information on it, billing information or credit card information, and you want that type of information secured. Also, Redtie is HIPAA compliant, meaning it's used in the medical industry where doctors send patient information, patient records, and patients can communicate back to doctors as well, and it meets the HIPAA compliance. This is how our solution works. Business is on the left, consumers are on the right, our cloud storage is on the top where attachments are stored. When we send a text message to a consumer, it goes from phone to phone. When a text message is sent with an attachment, those attachments go into our secure cloud. And when that text message has a link in it, the consumer clicks on that link, they access that secure cloud that is, related to their specific phone number, and they can view those documents. They can download those documents if they prefer, but they're always stored in that secure cloud. And one of the benefits of that, of course, is it doesn't take up space on their device. Many businesses don't send attachments to consumers for that reason. They don't want to be that company that gets the call from a consumer that says, "Stop sending me these attachments, or I'm going to, stop your service because it's taking up space on my phone that I don't have." So it protects PII information and it doesn't take up space on their phone. Here's some ways that you can use Redtie. One is with tags. It's really about organizing your contacts. Tags are indexed by phone number, and the way you upload contacts is you can upload them. Let's say that you have a list of 5,000 contacts, and you have the client's phone number, their first and last name. You upload that in a CSV file to our tool. You can enter them manually, or when you receive a text message, you can have that automatically go to a tag. So setting up tags is really important. You want both an outbound tag and an inbound tag. So as an example, if you were to send out a text with an attachment for your June newsletter, and you asked a question in that newsletter where you were expecting a response back, you'd want to make sure that you created an inbound tag. That way, all the responses that came from that June newsletter, you would get in one bucket. You'd be able to look at those. They're organized in a very good fashion, and you would respond back to those. The same thing with special invitations or like a wine pickup party. You want to create an inbound tag and an inbound and outbound tag, just so that all of those confirmations to your event are stored in one place. So you can go quickly and look and see that, of the 200 people that you invited, 75 have already confirmed. And at that point, you can decide what action to take, whether you send a follow-up text out or try to contact them in another way. Same would be true for a video message from a winemaker, as an example. Might send a text out with a video message in it, and that winemaker might talk about food pairing with wine and ask for suggestions from the receivers of that. You want to make sure that you capture those suggestions in one spot where you can respond back to that, or at least use that information to your benefit. There's going to be times when you'll just have inbound tags, things like incoming voice messages or QR scans. This is a look into our red tie tool, where you would create a tag. So you can, as I mentioned, you can either upload a CSV file of tags, you can create new tags, you can delete tags, you can tag them as inbound and outbound, quickly save those, and then you can look under each one of those tags to find out the types of consumers that are under there, and you can move them around from easily from tag to tag. Also, setting up auto responses when you do receive incoming messages. We have many different ways to do that. So when you receive a incoming text message, I have an auto response set up. You'll get a text reply back. It says, "Hi, it's Steve with Red Tie. Thank you for your message." So I can change that at any time I want, or not have an auto reply. Text reply to an incoming call. So if somebody calls me, it auto sends a text back to them. Or you can have a voice or text call for an incoming call back to them. So I've recorded a voice message. So if somebody calls me, it actually sends them a text message back with a video recording, an auto recording attached to that. So there's many different ways to do that. The other feature that we have is birthday greetings. If you like to wish your clients a happy birthday, your customers, if you collect their birth dates, you can enter their birthdays in here with a special message, and these automatically go out wishing them a happy birthday on their birthday. Creating a digital dialogue with customers, that's one of the benefits of interacting via text. Did you know that a 5% increase in customer retention can increase profits by 25 to 95%? And I know all of us realize that customer retention matters, and that's about making sure that you communicate on a regular basis and with the right messaging to customers. So if you engage them, they're going to be more of a long-term customer with you. And really the secret to that is just short, personalized messages. Videos are really the key. Short on-the-fly videos really make a lot of difference. The types of things that you can do to create more of interaction with your consumers is, rather than a stagnant newsletter, you can still send out your paper newsletter in a text, but if you add a video to that, some type of interactivity, something spontaneous usually works pretty well. As well as an event invitation, you have the opportunity, if you send a text with an event notification, to attach directions, a brochure, or a video saying, "We really look forward to you attending our event." One of the things that you can do when you create this content that you send back and forth to your customers via text is save that and then use that on social media. It's a good reuse of it. And then also monitor your results, measure those results, and find out what's working and what's not working, and then adjust accordingly. It's simple to send a text out to one or many people. You simply open the app, press compose, type the text message in. You can either attach from your device, computer, phone, or tablet, any type of document, or you can create an on-the-fly video or a voice message on the fly. Over to the right-hand side, you can see what that message is going to look like before you send it out. You send it out, and then you start monitoring the results. Also, did you know that 2/3 of the people prefer texting over email or voice calls? It's just the way people prefer to communicate. Reaching your customers quicker using texting, it works just because it has a high open rate. I mean, that's the beauty of texting, and they're normally read within 3 minutes. And texting versus email has a typical open rate of 18 to 20%, but a majority of that goes into the spam folder, about 45%. And the reason why they created a spam folder is because email is typically been oversubscribed. I'm not suggesting that you stop using email, just understanding how effective it is compared to other types of communication. So it's good to use a mix of both of those. Increasing newsletter readership. Again, you're going to get a higher response rate, and then doing things like adding a video to make it more interactive. It's not unlikely that some companies will not have a paper newsletter anymore. They might have one or two videos that talk about what they're doing with a link back to a newsletter or back to their site that talks more about what they're, sharing in their newsletter or special events. Improve event responsiveness. Again, with text messages, you're going to get that higher readership. And when you create those incoming and outbound tags, you're going to know who's coming at a glance. Measuring effectiveness. And we have a read receipt capability. And the message that I have up here on the right, it's an example of a business associate of mine. We both belong to a networking group. I sent him a text message on information with Red Tie. And these are the metrics that I get. So I sent it to him on March the 23rd at 2:02 p.m. It was delivered that same time. He opened it up an hour later, a little bit more than an hour later, and then he looked at all of my attachments. So I have this metric that I know that Rich looked at it, and now I could either follow up with him or call him or wait or send him another text message. But I have this data that helps me understand whether he's interacting with that or not. Putting QR codes to work. 2021 will be the year of the QR code. And I say that because they're just growing in popularity. QR codes are everywhere. Unfortunately, one of the benefits of the pandemic was they have grown in popularity because we're becoming more of a touchless society. And people are paying more with QR codes than before. In the United States, we're behind a lot of the rest of the world, and QR codes are more commonplace in other parts of the globe than they are here, but they're definitely gaining traction here, and there's a reason for that. One of the things that I hear from people is I don't use QR codes because I don't have a scanner on my phone. If it's easy to scan a QR code. You open your phone, you turn your camera on, it will automatically scan the QR code. A message will pop up above the QR code. You tap that message, and it will go to the place that you're directed to go to with the QR code. And typically, QR codes have been used in the past to go to like a website or things like that. But there's really more of an interactive way to use these QR codes. And here's some thoughts that I'd put down. You could add a QR code to the wine list in your tasting room. And as a customer is in there tasting wine, you could interact with that customer and say, if you'd like to look at a menu of how our wines pair with foods, click on that QR code, and the client would click on that QR code. They would enter their phone number because you have to opt in to communicate back and forth to that customer. So now you've captured that customer's information that you can communicate back and forth. If you have that incoming tag set right, you'll know that QR code was on the menu in your tasting room this month, and you can communicate back to that customer in that regard to say, you visited us, you visited our winery 2 months ago, thanks for coming. We're having a special event we would like to invite you to. And if they decide that they don't want to get those, they'll stop, but at least you have that information. Also on a bottle of wine, it's a great way to explore the opportunity of connecting with clients where your wine is sold at retail outlets. They would scan that QR code, enter their phone number, and they would have a message. You could have a video from your winemaker, you could have a discount, you could do all kinds of things. And with Red Tie, you have the opportunity to change that message behind that QR code, where many QR codes, you create them once, and then you have to recreate them. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Another option is to add a QR code to your front door of your winery. If you're not there, it'll pull up the latest events and those types of things. And again, you get that contact information from that client, and then you can use that to reach out to them. This is simple to set up a QR code with Red Tie. You simply open QR codes. You can create as many as you want. add a QR code description, the title, the message, and then add any attachments. And as I mentioned earlier, you can change that message at any time. So if you do have your wine at a retail outlet and you want to change the message, or there's a new video from your winemaker to celebrate fall, you would go in here, you would change that video, and when somebody clicks on that QR code, they would get that latest message from your winemaker without having you to have to recreate that QR code. A good way to introduce texting, if you decide to use it, is through a newsletter in person when people are visiting your business or winery. On social media, of course. You can provide incentives for people to join that, but really the key is people have to opt in to texting. You can't just take a list of 500 people and start to text them. They have to really opt into that. But here's some examples on how to do that. Best practices as far as engagement frequency. Typically, you don't want to text more than 4 to 5 times a month, so really don't overdo it. But don't miss an opportunity. So there are certain groups of your clients that you'll text more than others. If somebody scanned the QR code on your wine listing in your tasting room, you probably don't want to text them a lot. You might want to text them once a month or once every other month until you get this reaction from them that they want to engage with you. But don't overdo it, but don't miss an opportunity as well. Let your metrics help. Do what's working and stop what's not working. So use those onboard metrics to determine that. Keep it fun and engaging. Use photos, videos, and keep it short and simple. And that's really the magic to it. And again, reuse this content that you're creating through this texting platform on your social media as well. Is texting right for your business? Here's some questions that you can kind of work through. Are you looking for a simple way to digitally engage your customers? Do you have a way to measure your customers' outreach efforts? Are your newsletters generating the types of responses you want? Do you have an effective way to manage attendance at special events? And are you looking for a better way to improve the interaction with your customers? Just in summary, texting has the highest open rate of any communication. People prefer text messaging over email and voice. Texting is replacing email with all the enhanced features. Text and videos are really the sweet spot. Today's texting solutions are feature rich. Customers expect you to have a texting solution. You're probably getting text messages today and just don't realize it because they're probably texting your business phone number and it's just not going anywhere. QR codes are growing in popularity. Take advantage of those, but don't overuse texting. Thank you, Steve Knabel with Red Tie. You can try it for free. Go to www.getredtie.com. I'd love to give you a demo. Send me a text at 415-349-5606 and visit me on LinkedIn. Just wanted to show you our pricing sheet very quickly. You can try it for free. Plans start at $5 a month, and it's all based upon the number of messages that you send. So the $5 plan, you can send 100 messages a month. $15, you get 500, and for $50 a month, you get 3,000. If by chance you do choose a basic plan and want to add a few more messages, we have the capability to do that rather than to jumping to another plan. Again, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Well, one thing that I thought was really cool was your, sending text messages with the videos and photos, because that's definitely where we are in terms of social media. And you made a point, you can reuse these photos and these videos in your social media posts. And I'm sure some people are wondering, well, why would I send a text if I could just upload directly to social media and reach a bunch of people? So what would you say to that kind of question? Yeah,
that's a really good question. So what I would say to that question is there are really two different audiences. So some of the people that you would text wouldn't look at your social media. Not everybody looks at social media as the platform. With texting, you have that direct interaction between you and the client versus posting generic information on social media that somebody might look at. So I think it's a different way to interact. And I think that you get better customer retention by engaging that customer directly than you do by just posting that information on social media.
And is there a way to, I noticed that you used a couple of social media icons on some of your slides. And so I was just wondering if you post, or if you send a text rather, and you have content, is there a way to maybe link to your social media feed to see the video? Is that?
Yep. We don't have that feature right now, but it's something that we'll have on our roadmap.
Okay. Yeah. No, like I said, I saw the little YouTube and I was thinking, oh, that'd be cool if you could, click on that and go straight to the YouTube.
Sure.
Video. Maybe it's like how to food and wine pairing or.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. The other question I had was about the QR codes. And I've been seeing them a lot recently, especially in tasting rooms and wine bars, because they consider menus now a high touch contact item.
Yes.
And, as opposed to having to wipe them down every single time, you just snap it with your phone, which I think is pretty savvy. The one question I have, though, is about QR codes on bottles at retail. If people aren't used to that, what can wineries do or wine brands do to get that to become a habit? I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I want to get people to come to my website or download our food pairing menu or see our latest events via this QR code on my bottle. But how do we get consumers to get into the habit of that?
Yeah, I think, typically QR codes today are just the code by itself. There's no messaging with that code. And so I would encourage wineries to leverage that QR code in a way that encourages a consumer to scan that QR code. So that messaging would be, listen to a video of our winemaker talking about this wine and how you pair it with food. And that's where you would go to click that information. Some QR codes come with some precursor or, type of advertising like that, but a lot of them don't. So consumers don't really know what's going to happen when they click that QR code. So I think it's about that messaging on the bottle. So wine is a very personal thing. Winemakers are very passionate about their products. And if you indicate that you're going to see a video from the winemaker as you're enjoying that wine, it would entice somebody to say, yeah, I'm going to click that QR code and I'm going to watch that message from the winemaker. Or it could be, scan this QR code and we'll text you a coupon for, 50% off your next buy, or visit our tasting room for a discount. There's all kinds of ways, and, wineries are very savvy about advertising and, that communication with customers. I'm sure there would be a lot better than I am on that messaging, but I think it's all about the messaging that goes along with that click.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are my 2 follow-up questions for you. So next, we're going to speak to Paul Mabry. He's the CEO of Pix, an online platform that helps wine consumers shop for their ideal bottle. But he's also been at the forefront of many major digital trends for the wine industry, and you can read his extensive bio and amazing work. But today he's going to talk to us about what the wine industry can learn from Silicon Valley, and not just from a technological standpoint, but also cultural and human changes, and treating technology as the cornerstone for better business development and innovation. As Paul says, now is the golden age for wine online. So we're going to learn how the wine industry can capitalize on this, what kind of adjustments your business needs to take advantage of this, and what the overall benefits of changing business tactics to be geared towards a more technological future for the wine industry. And here's Paul.
That was such a nice intro, Stacy. And you have like that great Rate My Room background with the violins and the guitar. I'm like just so impressed in the wine books. It adds so much panache. I just have this boring whiteboard in the background. So, well, thank you. As you know, it's been both a trying year for all of us, and we're just kind of starting to see. So I'm going to give a macro impression of what's going on with the world, if you don't mind. And then I will kind of go into just the general 12 tips that I think we can do to really kind of learn from Silicon Valley. So first of all, I'd like to start with a little hope. I mean, wow. I don't know about you, but I have my 2 shots. I'm Team Pfizer right now. My wife's Team Moderna. We will determine which of us grows a third eye faster, but If you're not out there vaccinated, please do get vaccinated. It'll help us all get there so we can all actually go have fun and drink wine together. But as we all know, COVID was a challenging time for all of us, and for all the bad that came from it, the loss of life, the businesses being shut down, the unemployed, the stress, the anxiety, homeschooling, don't even start there. The reality is the one great thing that it did is it woke up the wine industry. We've been asleep at digital and e-commerce for decades. We are probably, honestly, the last industry to adopt technology in a meaningful way. But because of COVID, we had to. And we realized this isn't half bad. It actually works. We can sell wine online. We can use digital tools to stimulate sales. And for me, who's been in the industry, as Stacy said, standing on stage, begging, pleading for everyone to go online, I could never be happier than I am today, because not only are the wineries awake, every single cohort in the wine industry is awake. It's consumers, it's wholesalers, it's retailers, right? That transition is happening everywhere you look, starting with consumer behavior, right? We are definitely accelerating and using digital tools and all kinds of different ways of interacting with wine and different, not just wine, everything. I mean, prior to COVID, I had never really ordered from a restaurant online. Now, every day when I get home, I have to make a consideration set if I want to make dinner or if I had a long day, DoorDash it. I'm a little more lucky than most because we live in Napa and there's a little bit of Thomas Keller and Chiarello door delivery, but it's still amazingly the way it's changed the thought process. And this is in the mindset of every consumer out there. It's part of this new normal. New normal. We're going to be saying that for a long time. There's always a new normal, just for the sake of argument. There's always changes that will occur and go forward. Obviously, the new normal for us consists of tons of digital usage. Really, obviously, e-commerce was always a viable channel, but it's really surged a decade ahead. Delivery of everything, food, groceries. It's probably not very carbon friendly, but it's something that we're considering. And hopefully, as we get more electric cars, they'll make it better. We now want better service as consumers. We've been expecting it for a while. And by the way, lots of us are going to continue to work from home. PIX is almost exclusively a remote working environment where we have people in Colorado, New Jersey, Sweden, Germany, the UK, Texas, Santa Rosa, Napa. We're all over the place, right? And as a result, more things are happening at home too. A lot more hosting, a lot more entertainment. That's good for the wine industry, to be really honest with you. And there is a focus on us being healthier in a lot of different ways. I know that I'm trying to shed my COVID-20. Let's see how that works out. Get rid of the dad bod for hot guy summer, but we'll see how it plays on. But the new normal also consists of tools. Lots and lots of different tools have come, and some of these have been around for a while. Zoom was here prior to COVID. Now Zoom is almost becoming like Xerox. But because of COVID, we're using these tools more and more. Some will survive, some will vanish, but again, this era of new tools coming out, and it leads into what I said. The new normal is change. So us as an industry, we've been very change resistant, and we've been very much just doing things the old way for a very long time. But COVID fires and everything else has forced us to reconsider how we're going to behave going forward. And as a result of that, this channel that's been nascent online is alive and well for the retailers and the wineries. You guys are now investing in ways that we've never seen before in history. Every single winery is looking at the channel and how can we put more money and more resources and more people into it. And it's going to be a good thing because it's going to be not only keeping up with the Joneses, but the collective learning that we all have together about how to do better jobs of marketing automation, CRM and segmentation, third-party delivery tools. This will all get better for all of us. That's a good thing because we're all leaning into it, whether it's Gallo all the way down to tiny little wineries at 100 cases. But let's also not forget that the wholesalers are leaning into it. You have all kinds of e-tools coming out from the wholesalers, whether it's Proof from Southern Glaziers, LibDib, you have 750 and Provi. They are moving the market forward in terms of how retailers have access to wineries' products, how we can market to them, and how we collaborate with them. This creates a huge surge of people, processes, and programs. These are the cornerstones by which our market will continue to change. On the people side, there's a whole new cohort of individuals that are really affecting change, whether it's Justin Nolan or Kelly Burke. Justin Nolan just took over digital at Treasury. Kelly Burke is at Trincero, or Polly Hammond over at Five Forests on the DT side, really driving knowledge and helping us lift our understanding of how to do a better job of digital. But we also have this whole new category of e-wholesale with Wayne Dwayne and Karen Mitzel and Doug Allen really helping talk to how they partner with companies like Instacart or Drizzly or Wine.com or Wine Still Sold Out or Last Bottle, right? And they're really asking two fundamental questions. How do they affect eyeballs or cases? And those are going to be the two lenses we're going to start looking at the world through, is how do we affect eyeballs or cases? Eyeballs are consumers understanding and engaging with our brand. Cases are us selling product, either directly or indirectly, right, in that pieces. There's also a huge shift in processes. During COVID, we all had to absorb and reevaluate how we got wine to people. How do we do e-commerce fulfillment? How do we do returns and orders? And what things that we built weren't being managed or kept aware of? There's this great story from Alder Guerra when he went on a winery's website and they had a chat bot that was there and he responded to it and they didn't answer for days. These are the evaluations of how we look and map our customer journey into getting into much more effective ways of what's most important, which is serving our customers, right, in that piece. And these processes have even caused us to reevaluate how we look at our wine clubs, right? How do we look at the tools that are enabling us our businesses and allowing us to touch consumers at home, whether it's through text messaging or Zoom tastings, for God's sake. And by the way, if you're going to do a Zoom tasting, please make it entertaining. Please spend the energy. Or how do we get sample boxes to consumers? What are the different ways that we are touching them far away from us? Because the reality is we need to diversify our ability to get to customers, not just the ones that fall in our lap into the valleys, but the ones that never will get on a plane and fly to Napa, Sonoma, Santa Barbara, Paso Robles, Oregon, Washington. How do we affect change in those pieces? And then lastly, and most importantly, we're looking at programs. What are the programs that drive our business? Is it CDPs? Is it CRMs? And how do we evaluate those and bolt those together and attach those to the different software? And all of this investment into these pieces is moving the entire industry forward, right? By us spending more dollars, just like countries, we're able to get more innovation with this R&D. And the good news for everybody is lots of companies are spending money in the space to do infrastructure enablement, whether that's Commerce 7 for wineries, or wine shipping, upgrading their services and software. City Hive, which is a retail innovation tool. Open Table coming to the industry to power reservations. Thirsty for 3-tier products. Avalera adding more compliance software. All of this is good for us. All of those R&D dollars are going to help move us forward. Even Pix, as we're going into the market, we're spending $7 million to build a tool that helps you sell more wine. That enablement will help you touch more customers. And not everyone's going to be successful, but all of these putting the money will move the ball forward in the infrastructure. We also have tons of innovation tied to new kind of channels. Me personally, I don't really understand a conference call where you drop in and talk. This social attachment, but voice is here to stay. So whether it's the social audio or talking to your Alexa or Siri to buy products, those are all out there. And again, going back to eyeballs and cases, those dollars in infrastructure are continuing. Vivino is spending $155 million of their dollars to help people sell wine. We usually, like I said, are spending $7 million. Wine.com has $355 million they earned this last year in sales that they're going to reinvest to help enable you. That all of this is good for the industry. All of this means that we are activating customers, and all of this means more access for you guys to touch consumers out there. So with all of this great opportunity, everyone asks me, hey, Paul, what do we do? How do we make these changes? How do we take advantage of this tsunami that's going on? And it's scary a little bit. It's a lot of change happening really fast. They say that we've moved ahead 10 years in the last 1 year. And in internet time, that's like 100 years. And in internet plus wine time, that's probably a millennium. So what I say is for us to really lean into this, we should just look 90 miles south and we should ask Silicon Valley how we can do a better job. So I'm going to walk through 12 tips now that will get you to the other side of this. And you don't have to learn all of them. You don't have to know all of them, but hopefully you can take from each one of them something small And if not, maybe the one at the very end, so that you can do a better job at powering this new digital forefront that'll make your business better. So first of all, in Silicon Valley, they care about the customer. Every single thing is about the customer. Customer centricity. How do you have a customer journey? How do you serve them? How do you give a value exchange to the customer? What are the metrics that you measure? Everything is customer first, customer first, customer first. Now, we do that actually really well when a consumer comes to our winery. But I can tell you, we don't do that well across all channels. We don't do that thought process across all activities. I can't name the winery, but recently they were in a board meeting and the CEO picked up the phone in front of all of the senior staff, and they picked up the phone and called their customer service line. And the phone tree was so atrocious as they were on speakerphone that you could just see the pain points of everyone hurting as I went. We need to audit and think about, how do we make it better for the customer? How do we look at our wine clubs differently for the customers to make it more value for the person that's in Boston and can't come and visit for those regular winemaker dinners or go get their free tastings? What's the value exchange that makes that customer want to stick with us? That customer centricity, while it is not a technical thing, is a cultural change that they have, and we should follow suit in. They also have a cultural concept called jobs to be done, or JTBD, which is a statement about people don't want to buy parts of a skateboard. They just really want to go skating. That's their fundamental. And we need to understand, what are these values that we're trying to do? What are we trying to do for the consumer that makes them want to buy wine from us again and again and again? And too much we lean into the concept that they want tasting notes. But really, really what they want for their job to be done is enjoying our wonderful liquid in a glass and a bottle to share with their friends and family, or with themselves after a tough day, or to share great memorable experiences at dinner or at parties together, and really open up that cultural dynamics of sharing and exchange that comes from wine. It's one of the magical things that we have that most other alcoholic beverages don't have. Most other adult beverages are not about that kind of sharing moment on that piece. It's no surprise in Silicon Valley that digital is first for them, right? It's no surprise that they put everything digital first, how they can let you come sign up for their services, how you can engage with them, how you can scale, how you can change your account. We need to do that same digital first methodology. Allowing people to put pauses on their club or cancel their wine club may sound crazy to do it digitally, because we're worried about losing them. But I promise you, when you allow them to do that, you actually gain and retain customers as they get more happy that you are supplying them and managing the ways to lean into their business with you. They are fundamentally all about data all the time, data all the time. They're taking it apart, analyzing and understanding it so they can make good decisions. They're understanding how often their consumers buy, their lifetime value, and measuring those different behaviors. In fact, data is the engine that drives the innovation, not just with Silicon Valley companies, but large CPG companies like Nike understand that data, and first-party data, is especially important, especially with all the new laws of the GDPR compliance laws or the California protection laws. First-party data allows you to truly understand who your consumer is. And even if you don't have every single data point, it informs decisions to help you go forward. So Nike understands that 40% of their business DTC, which is what they've gotten to, is not just about the profit release, it's about that data loop that comes back to them. Hint Water, which I've talked about many times, is a great water company. I don't know what their numbers are post-COVID, but again, just like Nike, 40% of their business is DTC. And they use that data to inform the new products they make, which markets they attack, how they talk to their retail partners again and again, how they can expect and use those KPIs to extend their lifetime value. All of these key factors are coming from their data on that piece. In wine, they really believe in this concept, nail it and then scale it, right? Learn from small examples, get out there and find out these small experiments. So I'm going to name a couple of book titles. There were 3 book titles to this book that came out. And the story is this gentleman went out and bought these titles on Google AdWords. And the one that had the most response was what he was going to name the book. So the first 2 titles of the book, Broadband and the White Sand, you've never heard of because that didn't win the SEO war, the SEM war. The Millionaire Chameleon, which is an oddly strange name, also did not win it. But you probably know the name of the book that actually came out there, which was called The 4-Hour Workweek. This was Tim Ferriss buying that $200 ad, measuring it and seeing it. So then he scaled it and put it into a book. But you can do this in all kinds of ways. whether it is labels that you're trying to do, branding imagery that you can share without actually putting it into market and putting it as a physical label, to the way that you talk about your wine and going out and finding out what that value exchange is, or what parts of your wine club that you're trying to express. So doing these small minor experiments and A/B testing them. And then when you find the one that has the magic, you pour the gasoline on it so that it really lights on fire. There is the way that Silicon Valley leans forward. We're doing tests right now. At Pix, we're sending small emails to different pockets to learn what the right magic is. We're showing consumers different screens to say which one really hits your nerve endings so that you're going to have a great time and a great experience on our site. This is a small activity and a small exercise. It does add a little bit of time to it, but on the other side, it makes it much better. Measuring what matters. They're very, very focused at key performance. The good news about Silicon Valley is because of all the things that have come out, all the ways that they measure business, we can actually take a lot of their KPIs or measurement tools or different stats and apply them to our own business and slowly grow a hierarchy of sophistication. And you can see this arc here. It goes from least sophisticated to the most sophisticated, but we can use those and get better and smarter, and we don't have to invent them. They've already been invented. Customer acquisition cost measurement in e-commerce has been invented and cured. Social media measurement efficacy has been invented and fully understood on that. And we can just take those pieces and apply them to our industry. And in fact, they add a ton of value to us. As a small example, the subscription economy is one of our inventions, right? It's us, newspapers, and that CD club. Right. And we have had wine clubs for a long time. But as you've noticed, the subscription economy is a thing. And you have all kinds of companies like Plated and Fuego Box. And the reason they do that is because those statistics help them get much larger valuations using these kind of retention models and churn models. If we apply these same statistics to our wineries, we could probably get much larger valuations if we decide to sell our company or just bank loans, et cetera. We get 3 to 5x of our EBITDA. You can get 10 to 15x your EBITDA if you're using these measurement tools out to the market. So again, just reframing the measurement, reframing what the value proposition and taking from Silicon Valley gives us a huge advantage, not only in how we measure our own success of our business, but also the value our business creates for the world. The blue ocean strategy is something that's very Silicon Valley as well, right? Go to the place that no one else is at. In the wine industry, if you Google family-owned, sustainable, biodynamic, you name the word, it's endless stories, the same story again. We need to find a new story. We need to step out of that and try something new. Great examples of that are Dan Petrowski from Maskin, who makes his own Ribolla Gialla, and that's his thing. He owns that thing himself. There's all kinds of other examples of people moving into markets and owning that piece. We need to find more of that. And it doesn't have to be a different product like that. It could be the best Napa Cabernet, which is an ocean of Napa Cabernet. But what is that thing that you tell your story? What thing do you do that's different than the winery down the street, besides making great wine? Because what great wine is the ticket to ride. It's not the differentiator. And that's where Silicon Valley really shines, is that differentiator. What is that magic sauce that makes it a little different, that stands out and makes you want to try that thing? In the wine industry, we've been really scared to fail. And I understand that. As someone who's married to a winery CEO, as someone that's grew up in this valley and lived here, we are not like other industries. We kind of have one swing at the plate. We have one vintage that we get, and if it goes bad, we lose that money. It's a very scary experience, right? And it takes a lot of capital investment. I understand that cultural fear factor that's been driven in, but the reality of it is none of us really know these things going forward. We need to go test and move, and you need to give room for your employees to go fail at a high percentage, right? 20, 30% of their activities, finding out and learning and moving forward. Because if you haven't tried Clubhouse over and over again, will it work for you? And are you doing a good experiment to find out if that's the right answer for your business? I don't know the answer. I'm not a big Clubhouse fan, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work. And what we constantly hear is a lot of wineries saying, I tried it once, it doesn't work. How is it possible that other industries are succeeding at Instagram marketing, at Facebook sales, and we're not? Because we need to keep failing forward until we find the right recipe that matches our winery, right? Because it's different for each of us. We can't keep following each other on that piece. We can't be lemmings in that capacity. What works for $125 SRP, suggested retail price Chardonnay, is not the same that works for a $30 Sierra Foothills Grenache Blanc, right? There are going to be different tools, methodologies, and marketing messages, and we have to go learn those on our own. And that, by the way, not only requires failing forward, it means investment in people, investment in processes, investment in programs. And unfortunately, it's going to feel very uncomfortable for a while because those investments won't feel like they're paying off right out of the gate. In fact, it's going to emulate the fish model where it's going to look like we're losing money, but there'll be an inflection point where all of that technology, all of that aptitude starts to hit and trigger. And once that transformation is good, that's when the hockey stick results and the value creation comes from that investment, all the way into growing to, sometimes triple digits of your ability to grow because your answers are right in front of you after you've learned those skill sets. And if you know, the most successful companies in the world invest a lot of money. I'm not expecting you, by the way, to invest 22% of your profit like Amazon does, right, to get into that piece. But I am saying that we need to put dollars. And when I say invest in this, I'm not talking about new products or labels. I'm talking about sales and marketing and digital tools that help us grow, because that's all digital is. It's a tool to help a human scale and touch more people and do a better job touching people, right? But those investments are not just about the tools, not just about the learning. It's also really, really deeply into the people, right? We need to spend money bringing experts into the wine industry. It's fundamental that we bring experts. So looking at these people, these are really intelligent people, whether the growth of Dropbox or the growth of Eventbrite. None of you on this conference right now would hire any of these people to make your wine. You know why? Because they are not a wine expert. They are not a wine making expert. None of you would hire these people to be your head of finance or your CFO because they are not a finance expert. We need to make this recognition and not say we're just promoting from below and hiring the youngest person who knows how to use digital, but we need to bring in true experts into the industry. And the success of that has demonstrated itself already. If the model isn't proven right, you can look at Justin Nolan or Kelly Burke and how they've transformed those businesses effectively and moving them forward and really creating a lot of value, right? And really changing the industry in a positive way. That's because they're experts. And yes, it's going to take a little time, because these experts that work outside in digital don't understand the peccadillos or the idiosyncratic behaviors of wine where we can't give away things for free, how we market to these things and tied house laws and compliance, and we only make a finite product that we can't keep making more. Yes, those are things they will have to learn, but they have the expertise of digital. So once they learn those little nuances, they can move very quickly, right? It's not about just getting a new customer. I think that one of the things that COVID taught us is that retention is the new acquisition and is more important than ever, right? Retention is the new acquisition and it's more important than ever, right? We want people not just to buy from us once, we want them to buy again and again and be loyal and purchase from us. We want our subscription loyalty to extend and our lifetime value. I'm just recently looking at the Silicon Valley Bank stats. Do you know that the average wine club, in the Napa Valley is something like 2,500 members? For a valley that gets over, millions of consumers to come for the year, it says something. We need to do a better job creating a value exchange to keep people buying from us again and again. And that loyalty loop versus the funnel is really the lens we need to start looking the world through. And that's, by the way that Silicon Valley looks at it. Facebook wants you to use their app again and again. Pix, we want your monthly active users recurring monthly active users, MAUs. That's loyalty. And when there's loyalty, we can unlock value on that. And that loyalty really plays heavy into the core part of our engine of our business. Like I said, our wine club is a big engine, right? We need to think about wine clubs differently in that loyalty matter, not just as a paid sampling program, not just as a thing that we use and turn it on and make money as a cash register, but what are we doing to change the way that we give our wine to those consumers that they're buying again and again, and sometimes buying above and beyond that? What is that delineation that's different? And how do we evaluate that differently? It's a great time for us to rethink the wine club, by the way, because it is stale, tired, and old. And just doing choice wine clubs is not going to make the answer. It's about really looking at a higher level of the value exchange. With digital, by the way, there's no end. You have to keep spending. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. It's just like electricity. But it has a maintenance cost, just like owning a house, right? If you own a house, you're always spending money keeping it upgraded. As your stove breaks down, we had our air conditioner go out recently, and it costs money. And the more you use things and the more people using them, I have a big household, as you might know. I have 4 children. We have an au pair that lives with us, and my wife, and a dog and a cat. We're using a lot of things a lot, right? So they break down faster, right? And we have to spend money. So if you spend a little bit of money keeping these things up to date, adapted, you win over time versus one big cost, right? It's super important about that. And it's not just about things, it's about people. We have to keep spending money on our people because they have to understand and learn the technologies that we're looking at, because technologies are changing just as fast, if not faster. Facebook of this month is very different than Facebook of 2 months ago, right? Twitter of today is very different than Twitter of 2 weeks ago. We have to keep up with that knowledge curve of it as well. Otherwise, we're going to fall behind in that capacity. And by the way, the penalties for not paying down your total cost of ownership, no one knows it better than us in the West Coast. No one knows it better than us. The depleted and dilapidated infrastructure that PG&E allowed cost fires over it. Now, yes, there's global warming that's contributed and a lot of other things, but these were part of the impetus of this. Us not paying that down over and over again. So we had modern equipment helped to stimulate those fires, and the cost structure of that was far, far greater than just paying that over time. And if none of this really caught with you, if none of this really, hits your nerves, fundamentally, everything I've told you has nothing to do with technology, really. It's about using tools and about changing the culture of your business. And if you're not going to use any of those cultural changes prior, I would recommend listening to, another one of the original gangster tech guys, Gary Vaynerchuk. The best strategy you can ever have is just caring. The best marketing strategy and the best thing you can do in this change is just caring on this piece. So at the end of the day, this is just like Willy Wonka says, a little bit of perspiration, a little bit of electricity, a little bit of evaporation, and just a hint of butterscotch ripple. Thank you for having me. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to answer. And thank you, Wynn, for presenting this. It's great that we keep moving the industry forward.